Have you ever wished you had a virtual recruiter that could sift through resumes for you? Today, you'll build an AI-powered workflow that does exactly that, without writing any code. Here we have a database with potential candidates, containing information like their years of experience, relevant skills, and education level. And what we want to do is upload a job spec, like the spec for a senior front-end developer, which contains things like the required skills for this role. And we'll then use AI to match each of these candidates to the role, and provide a potential score, and along with the AI's reasoning. Let's see this in action. Let's upload that job spec, and let's run this workflow. And for each candidate, we now get a score, and this is a score out of 100, along with the reasoning for the score. So here we can see whether the AI thinks this person will be a match or not for the role. This is a great solution for companies that have a lot of candidates within their database, and you simply want to match those candidates to a new job. So let's go ahead and build this together. In this tutorial, we will be using VectorShift, which is a no-code platform for building AI-powered workflows. The nice thing about VectorShift is you don't have to worry about self-hosting this yourself, and you also don't have to worry about things like OpenAI API keys. All you have to do is click on Get Started, and then create or sign into your account. If you've used VectorShift before, you will still learn something in this video, because we will be looking at a new feature called Workbooks. And Workbooks is a fantastic solution for keeping your pipelines organized. So go to Workbooks and click on New to create a new workbook. Then let's call this Resume Analyzer Tutorial. And from here you can add existing pipelines to this workbook, but we'll simply start from scratch. Let's also give a name to our initial pipeline. So let's simply call this one Resume Analyzer Tutorial as well. Let's create this workbook. Right, so VectorShift's gone ahead and it's created this workbook, which is almost like a folder for organizing these pipelines, and it called that folder Resume Analyzer Tutorial. And it also created a pipeline called Resume Analyzer Tutorial. We can also see all the pipelines belonging to this workbook at the bottom of the screen. At the moment, we only have one. First, we want to pass in a file containing the job spec. And we also want to retrieve the potential candidates from a database. For this demo, we'll simply use a Google Sheet. So in order for us to upload a file to this workflow, let's add this input node. Let's change the type from text to file. If we run this workflow, we can see under inputs that we are indeed able to upload a file. Now let's also attach a Google spreadsheet. You can do that by going to docs.google.com/spreadsheets. I've already created this spreadsheet containing some candidate information. The columns in the spreadsheet is the candidate name, the years of experience, the relevant skills, as well as their education level. Then I also created this second tab with the exact same columns, but I've also added the match, percentage, as well as the reason. So that's really all you need. Go ahead and save the spreadsheet, and then back in your pipeline, go to Integrations, add Google Sheets. Then from this node, select Read from Sheet. Then connect your Google account by clicking on this button. Click on Add Integration, and follow the instructions to add Google Sheets to your VectorShift account. Once you've connected your account, click on Next. Click on Pick File. Then let's select our resume spreadsheet, and let's select the Candidates tab. So that's this very first tab containing our candidate information. Then let's click on Confirm Selection. Great, so this spreadsheet will output the candidate name, years of experience, the relevant skills, and the education level. So now that we have our job spec coming in from this node, and we've got a list of candidates that we need to process, we somehow need to loop through each of these candidates and see if they are a match to this job spec. So how do we do that? Well, we could try and loop through all of this logic within this very same pipeline, but a better convention is to build a pipeline that will receive the details of a specific candidate and then match that candidate to the job spec and return the match score along with the reasoning. That will just keep this project super clean. Now, how do we create that pipeline? All we have to do is at the bottom of the screen, click on this plus button, and let's click on New Pipeline. Let's rename this pipeline to Match Candidate to Role. Now, this pipeline will be responsible for receiving the details about the candidate and then output some sort of score. So that means we have to receive some details. So for the first input, I'm just going to rename this to YOE for years of experience, and we'll leave the type as text. Let's add another input, and let's rename this one to skills. Let's add another input, and let's rename this one to education level. And finally, let's add another input, and let's call this one job description. Okay, cool. So we've got these 4 inputs, and now we'll use AI to provide a matching score for this candidate. So let's go to LLM, let's add OpenAI, and let's provide some system instructions. I'm going to expand this view. Your job is to assess whether the candidate is a fit for the job description. Output according to the JSON schema. And we will come back to the JSON schema in a minute. Provide a match percentage in the match percentage field. Additionally, output a few sentences of reasoning on why they are fit in the reasoning field. Utilize the years of experience, relevant skills, and education level to make the assessment on whether they are a match based on the job description. Super simple stuff. And let's also provide all of this context in this prompt field. So let's say skills, and then let's enter double curly braces. Let's select skills and text. And that will grab this text value that's coming from the skills node. Let's also add the years of experience. And another way to pull in these variables is to grab this node. Let's attach it to the OpenAI node. And now we're getting this message in yellow saying that we're not using any values from this node. So what we can do is we can grab this and let's drop it in this prompt field. And let's select text. Let's do the same for the other nodes. So let's say education level. Then let's grab it from this education level node, dot text. And finally, let's add the job description. And that we can get from the job description node, dot text. Cool. And for the model, I'll simply leave it on GPT-4o. Now let's see what this output looks like. I'm actually going to add an output node, and let's attach the output from the OpenAI node to the output node. Then let's click on run. For the years of experience, let's enter 6. For the skills, let's say Tailwind. For the education level, I'll just say self-taught. And for the job description, I'll just say I need a web developer with Tailwind experience, and let's run this. Alright, so we get this JSON code coming back, and this is saying this candidate is a 90% match, and for the reasoning, it says the candidate has 6 years of experience with Tailwind, which is the primary requirement for the job. Although the job description does not specify a required education level, the candidate's self-taught background is not a hindrance given the extensive experience with the relevant technology. This makes them a strong fit for the position. Great, so this is working as expected, and at the moment the model is outputting a string that represents a JSON structure, and sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. So in order to ensure that the model will always output JSON and nothing else, we can go back to the OpenAI node, let's click on settings, and let's enable JSON output. Now we have to provide a JSON schema. Now thankfully, we don't have to manually create the schema either. Simply go to ChatGPT or Claude and enter the following. Create a JSON schema containing the following fields. Match percentage, and this is give some description like a percentage on how much the candidate is a match based on the job description. Then second, we also want a reason field with the description, the reason for the score, and why the candidate is a match or is not a match. Let's send this. Then let's copy the schema and let's add this to VectorShift. Cool, let's test this by running this flow again. And now you will see we actually do get this error message saying that a minimum parameter was not allowed. Now if you do run into issues like this, simply click on additional outputs. Let's expand this error message and copy all of this text. Then back in ChatGPT, let's paste in this error. And now it's giving us this corrected schema. So let's copy this. Let's add it to VectorShift. And let's run our workflow again. And this time it worked as expected. We get our match percentage along with the reason. Cool. So now that our pipeline is behaving, all we have to do now is extract the reason and that match percentage and return it as output from this pipeline. So in order to extract information from JSON structures, we can go to data transformation. Let's add the JSON ops node. From here, let's grab read JSON values. And for the JSON string, let's attach our OpenAI node to this JSON node. And let's add OpenAI to this JSON string field. And from OpenAI, we simply want to use the response. Now we can specify which fields we want to extract. The first one was called match underscore percentage. And the second field is called reason. So it's these values over here, the match percentage as well as the reason. And this will give us these two individual values. So let's go to general, let's add the output node. And I'm going to rename this output node to match. And for the output value, let's grab read JSON values dot match percentage. Let's also output the reason. So I'm just going to rename this node to reason. And for the output text, let's grab read JSON values dot reason. All right, so if we had to run this again, you will now notice that we have these two output fields in this view as well. Let's expand this a bit so we can see all the inputs on the left as well as the outputs on the right. So let's run this. And now we get a super clean view of what the outputs would be. Right, we're now ready to use this pipeline in the rest of our workflow. In order to use this pipeline in other pipelines, we have to deploy it. So let's click on Deploy Changes. Let's select Major and let's click on Deploy. Awesome, so let's go back to our first pipeline, this Resume Analyzer, and let's think about what we need to do here. What we want to do is now loop through each of these candidates and call this pipeline that we just created. So let's add this pipeline node, and then we can select our pipeline, which we called match candidate to role. And what we need to do now is simply map all of these values to these fields. For the education level, let's select Google Sheets and education level. Then for the skills, let's select Google Sheets and let's select relevant skills. Let's do the same for the years of experience. So I'll select years experience. Cool. Now for the job description, we'll grab it from this node. So let's say input and processed text. Now we've got a bit of a problem here. This pipeline will only run once and not in a loop. And what we need to do is loop through this list of candidates and process them one at a time. Now to run this pipeline in a list, what we need to do is click on this button to enable list mode. But when we enable this, we've got an issue. Now the Google Sheet node is fine, so this line is not red, and that is because this Google Sheets node is outputting the data as lists. But the issue is with this input node, which is not outputting a list and only a single value. So to fix that, what we can do is break this connection. Then let's go to data transformation. Let's add this list ops node and let's select duplicate. We can use this duplicate list node to effectively convert this node into a list. So for the item to duplicate, let's select our input node dot processed text. Now for the list to match, let's click on this drop down. Let's select our Google Sheets node and let's simply match on the candidate name. This typically needs to be some unique value, and usually in a database you would have some sort of unique identifier like a row ID or a social security number, etc. Now this node will provide a list of values, and therefore under job description we can remove this value, and now we can grab the job description from the duplicate list node and the output property. Now our workflow will call this pipeline in a loop to attempt to match each of these candidates to our job spec. And this will then return the match percentage and the reason for each of those candidates. And the final step is to write the results to the second tab in our spreadsheet. So to do that, let's go to integrations, let's add Google Sheets, and let's select the column list writer option. Let's click on next, let's click on pick file, let's select resumes, and let's select the software developer column. Let's click on confirm selection, and now let's map each of these fields. For the candidate name, we can get that from our Google Sheet and candidate name. For the year's experience, we can select Google Sheets and year's experience. For the relevant skills, let's select Google Sheets again and relevant skills. Let's also select the educational level from Google Sheets. And now for match, let's select our pipeline.match. And finally, let's do the same thing for reason. So we'll select pipeline.reason. And believe it or not, that's all we have to do. Let's run this pipeline. So I'm going to select the file. Let's run this pipeline. So it's busy running. And now that it's done, let's go over to our spreadsheet. And look at that. The software developer tab has been populated. And for each of these candidates, we get a matching score out of 100, along with the AI's reasoning on why this candidate is, or maybe is not, a good fit for this role. If you enjoyed this video, then please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. And check out this VectorShift tutorial where I show you how to generate leads using VectorShift as well. I'll see you in the next one.